I got that. Yeah, heard them call me conscious. I ain't think about it honestly. My thoughts too deep to process, so I do this all unconsciously. Finally feeling God bless. Got 'em woke up dropping prophecy. Don't take it out of context. Just before, I swear they always sleep. Now they catch the message, yeah. Bet that every song is deep. It's levels in each concept. But I can't just never mono theme. I'm trying to lead this flock for the cause, not the following. People upon a partner, and I wonder why they drawn to me. Once upon a time, I thought to follow up a dream. Draw life about these lines, nothing twice about these schemes, and like thrice about these insights. What I write is like a blueprint for you to comprehend life. That's light, I reckon, make you shine. Never dim it down, even if you live surrounded where everybody vision clouded. Remember, staying down ain't quite as good as getting out. It said, remember, staying down ain't quite as, ay. If you believe, yeah. Many doubted it was hard for them to think. Somehow I'm finally getting out of that's it. Usually, yeah, they vision clouded, but as you can see by now, we finally getting out there, writing truth, spreading love. Tell me how you feel about it. Got this music from above, that's how I know I'm getting out there, writing truth, spreading love. Tell me how you feel about it. Got this music from above, that's how
I think you're right. I think that maybe we're not really the ultimate function of the whole thing, whether you call it society, a full indoctrination from cradle to grave. It's to keep us from even knowing that we know what we would want about our true path, or like what life could even be, were we not following this we're on like railroad tracks that were laid.
We're programmed, and until we actually acknowledge is the one word you could use, deconstruct. The Toltec would say take inventory, is like literally taking inventory of all of your memories, all of the small agreements that you've made along the way that you almost don't, you take them for granted. They're subconscious. You're not even, until you have to make the subconscious conscious. And you have to do that by willingly. You can't just allow yourself to be distracted by what's ever going on. If you really want to change your life, if you're really unhappy with your life, you actually have to acknowledge like what you've agreed to, because the only way to change your life is to change your agreements, because your literal operating system, we're computers, we're programmed robots,
right?
And your operating system is coded by the agreements that you've made.
Ooh, I love this. This goes straight into the rendering, right back to the rendering discussion, because we're getting into the point where we're talking about our brains being essentially functioning as a CPU that runs off a specific OS operating system, and that system has a set of language-based rules, and that language is comprised of characters, and that's it. And then symbols and characters, and that from that
and agreements.
And yeah, there's all these, and that's essentially what an algorithm is a series of rules and agreements that are true or false, and there's true outcomes and there's false outcomes, and it's like either or. And so all these algorithms are just like very, very simple rules at the base of a very, 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 very complex system of other rules that are preceding these, like parent
then
that type of stuff. But
all these different types of commands.
My favorite analogy for an algorithm is a thermostat. If above X, on. If below X, off. Like that's an algorithm. And that's a very simple one, but it's really just saying, one is good, the other one do this, the other do that. It doesn't, and then from there it can be but it's usually just two. It's almost like a series of, it's like a chain of binary decisions. Anyway.
And I think on a practical level, that's what agreements are. Like every yes or no that every second of everything that I could decide to look this way, I could decide every little decision, you have to really examine that on a really even your senses, what you're listening to. You can focus your listening power, energy, however you want to call that. But
Yep.
yeah, I mean, people complain about the government so much, but it's like, what are you doing to change this?
And it's in here too. I'm tapping my forehead. It's in our minds. It's in our brains. I think that the
Like, of course
activity
they're
that we
trying to
do,
fuck us. Like, that shit
they
is
want to fill our minds with
so played
nonsense.
out. They were exposing how we are
Right.
the robots, how
Humanity.
we
Yeah.
operate based on these agreements that, we're living a life that most of us don't want to live. And the people that told us to live this way didn't want to live the lives they were living.
Right.
They were just doing it based on this program that, it's like the Westworld at the beginning.
We don't know there's another way. We're just
scroll,
taught
the script.
this is the only way. Yeah, we're taught there's only one way to go, and we're taught what success. We're given all the metrics for success. Theoretic.
That's why I think it's so important to assess what we believe, and what we believe is one way to put it. What we agree to is one way to put it. Our faith is one way to put it. And like my favorite scientific, if you want to call it science or whatever, the placebo effect, I think, is one phenomena that is just under talked about. It is like, it is literally the standard by which drugs are measured for efficacy.
Oh,
but
you're right.
Yet
we forget about that.
But yet we don't even know.
Against a placebo.
But yet we don't even know how it works. Supposedly,
and honestly,
right?
we don't even know what's in the placebo. What's in the placebo? That is nothing. The placebo is like supposed to be like this promised drug that has like absolutely. If there's nothing in it and it doesn't do anything, what's it made of? Tell us what the placebo is even made of. People say like sometimes sugar pills, and it's like, well, that's not nothing. That's not nothing. We're acting like the placebo is nothing too. Anyway. But you're right. The placebo effect. Everything is tested against this placebo. And nocebo. What are your thoughts on nocebo? The nocebo effect.
It's the same effect. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's agreements, it's the same thing as what we were talking about with the binary. It's the yes or no in any given moment. So the placebo is the one, the nocebo is the no. Really, it's the same thing. It's our ability to decide. It's our power. It's the way we're rendering through our choices, through the agreements that we make.
Yes. And I think you're right. And I think that there's certain things within our bodies, because you think like, well, why is one person going to have a good reaction and why is one person going to have a bad reaction? Well, I think the way that we live our lives can like prime the pump for good or bad. And yeah, maybe some people are more susceptible to having positive outcomes from null whatever, and some people are more susceptible to having negative outcomes from a null point, because the placebo is essentially supposed to be like it's not supposed to move whatever needle it is. The placebo is not supposed to move the needle at all. It's not supposed to be effective in any way, shape, or form. But yeah, some people.
No, I don't want to overemphasize it either. I think, I've done drugs, and drugs have their effect.
What do you think about psychosomatic? Like taking pharmaca out of this, taking any sort of like pill or any sort of like substance, outer body substance. Like, what do you think about people that kind of manifest sickness just by or health? You can think yourself healthy. Or what do you think about the mind? And because there are people that suffer from what's called psychosomatic illness, which is real in a sense that it presents within the body in a real way, real
I think
pain,
it's exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah. I think it's literally the way that they're programmed. They're programmed to believe that they're not well, and so their body responds to exactly what they want.
Yeah.
But intuition is basically the strongest form of verification or the authority, essentially. Like our body, you don't have to teach your heart how to beat.
Right.
You don't have to teach your brain how to analyze. You don't have to teach your eyes how to see. You don't have to teach your nose how to smell. Like there are things that we just know, and we cannot. It's not that we don't know how to explain it. It's that it's literally we cannot explain there, because the act of explaining it is already distorting what it is.
Right. Yeah. I have no idea how my heart does what it does in there. I'm not doing it. I'm not governing it. I'm not asking it to do its thing. It just does it. And I got no clue. I have no clue how it works. You're right. There's no way to
muscles,
explain it.
dexterity, all of that. Like,
Yeah.
that's
You
just
could probably
muscle
read
memory,
50 medical
practice.
books on the heart, but
No, that's not going to help your heartbeat.
Right.
If anything, it's probably going to make it worse because you're
you can't
stressed out about
explain
reading all
exactly how
this
it's going.
nonsense.
The human body is, I think, the most incredible machine in this realm. The
It's
human
the
mind,
most
the human body
advanced
system.
technology.
Yeah. And we're the most advanced computing systems, computing
Mm-hmm.
software, everything.
1,000%.
Yeah. And together, with our powers combined, I think that there's something so much greater.
That's kind of what I was alluding to with like Westworld season 3 having the lowest critic score. Is I feel like a lot of people have a problem with acknowledging that we are at least robot-like. I think our emotions are what separate us from being purely, and the emotions are kind of tied to your intuition. It's tied to your emotional body, ethereal body, the spiritual stuff that a lot of people think is airy fairy and woo, woo woo and all that. And I think that there is a lot of people in that community that are woo woo, and so there is some validation to their criticism, but I'm trying to just make that practical. I think that there is definitely something to the unseen world, and the power of our thoughts, the power of our beliefs. And I think we should acknowledge, I think we're overdue for science to acknowledge the power of consciousness. That one right there. I mean, the old paradigm cannot explain consciousness. Right, exactly. Well, intuition is a direct from source consciousness. Right. So as you're really talking about the same thing when you talk about, at least on a scientific paradigm, incorporating consciousness into that paradigm, because the Newtonian model, which is what they're still, mainstream science is still trying to cling to that. Which
Disney. It looks like a Disney cartoon.
It's hilarious.
Yeah, it is hilarious. The atom, you see? Yeah, I don't
know. 99% empty space.
And in gravity,
they hardly even want to talk about that.
Can't be, it seems so obviously connected to like a sense of buoyancy and density to me, and things float, things fall and float. And how do you explain hydrogen, air balloon, like all these? It's like there's we still can't explain.
It's magic.
There's so many.
The world is
It really is, actually. It really is. I do believe this is a magical, mystical place, and we're trying to put hard physics on it. And I think the physics actually prove the magic, because I think our realm kind of bends to whatever the accepted applied physics of the day is, rendered through our brains. And so if we're all taught a certain way, we're all going to see the world in a certain way and render it in a certain way to a specified physics that we're all collectively taught. And it kind of agreed upon, these little rules and things. Again, algorithms, just rules, like da-da-da. And I think we all kind of collectively render.
The Toltecs call it the voice of knowledge. It's like the voice in our head that wants to explain our experience rather than experience our experience.
Oh, that feels like a mushroom trip right there. Like your consciousness slightly separating and go, no, just be in it. Just feel it. Quit trying to explain everything all the time. That was me.
When your body's totally quiet, when you shut that voice of knowledge off, that's when you're totally connected to your intuition. You know everything, but the minute that you go back into that voice of knowledge to try to explain how you know everything, you already fuck it up. You've already fucked it up just by trying to explain it.
That's a hard place for me to get to be honest. I think it's the truest place, a stillness and quiet in my mind, but I should let myself go there more, but I don't. Like, for whatever reason,
I get so distracted. That's why I'm reading this book. I mean, yeah, everything that I talk about, especially when I talk critically about people, I'm mostly talking about myself.
Well, I like to say we're the only human being that we should and can experiment on. We shouldn't be experimenting on others, but we can sure experiment on ourselves and see what works for us in this realm. And we gotta kind of, I like to, we got to be in it. We got to be in the illusion or whatever, we got to be in it first. And then one day you can be out of it and see that you were in it and appreciate it and see it, and then grow from it. Like the ladders, the ladders analogy, we got to ascend and,
I always invoke the Toltecs because I feel like it's kind of, it was part of my reprogramming. So it's Don Miguel. Uh-huh. Yeah, so Don Miguel Ruiz wrote a book called The Four Agreements. It was actually his second book. He had written one called Beyond Fear before that, but that was way too far out for the average programmed mind. So then he went back to the drawing board and wrote the 4 agreements. That resonated with a large audience. He even
I've
got
heard
on
you mention
Oprah, and
Yeah.
which I think is funny because Oprah, but
Oprah.
but that at the same time, which is exactly what I was about to just say, and invoking, circling back to what you were just saying, he says that in order to pull off a revolution, we must understand how the system was put in place. So
Ooh, I like that.
So I used to be like, damn, why is he going to Oprah? But then I read that's out of one of his newer books called The 3 Questions.
Ooh, I got to know those questions.
Who am I? What is real? And what is love, or something about love? I think it's what is love, I think is the 3rd one.
Ooh.
Like your acknowledgement and belief that is God. Like
Oh, yeah.
that faith is your power from what I understand to be God. But also, like, the word God and even the word love, for me, the reason it's so distorted is people think it's like this extra dimensional or like this special thing that isn't real or that has to be made real through some act of something. But I think God is reality, and that is love. Like, the only reason that we would exist, like hate would destroy itself. So the fact that we exist at all means we exist in love, and any belief otherwise is a lie, and it's a virus in our programming that's disrupting that operating system and trying to write our story for us rather than us having the power to write our own story or live our own life, however you prefer to word that.
Is the opposite of love hate, or is it fear, or what lies at the other side of love?
I think it's definitely fear.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely fear. I think hate is real, though. Like, hate comes from fear.
Right. Okay.
And also,
yes.
but it also
yes.
comes from love too. Like, you're not going to hate anything that you don't feel love for too.
Oh my God. Amen to that. Yeah. That hits deep. That's true.
Because if you don't, all right. So if it's a lie that you don't love, you're not going to feel hate for it. You're just going to let it go.
Yeah.
But if it's a lie that you've had a relationship with,
or even like family, like the people that are closest to us.
No, I mean literally, on a more literal level, like having a relationship with that lie.
Oh, with the lie. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I think ideas are
I
alive.
think
ideas and beliefs are like living beings. I see like ideas and concepts and agreements. They're all kind of like living beings. They're all vying for our attention just as much as actual people vie for our attention,
Yeah. Oh, interesting. Kind of like taking up the RAM in the back of our minds. These thoughts and ideas kind of pressing up against.
Like, if you don't believe it, that's one of my favorite things to talk about, actually, because to reveal the power of your belief, don't believe anything. Literally don't believe anything at all. Then only the truth will survive. All the lies will dissipate. Now, the problem is we're addicted to a lot of the lies, and some of the lies serve us in seductive ways. So we continue to go along with them. And that's something that we have to be disciplined with ourselves in order to fully acknowledge and flesh out.
Right.
And so there is a process there, but ultimately, if you truly don't believe anything, the truth will survive your doubt,
Yeah.
And ultimately, what you'll find at the very bottom of that exercise is that your belief is super powerful, and what you believe actually creates the story that you're living in, which is kind of a lie, but we live it. And that's our operating system. That's the robotic part of ourselves. So it is something that we should take the time to make sure is our own. If we want to be happy, then we should be living our own life rather than somebody else, some agreements that we agreed to from teachers and old childhood,
right.
Friends and stuff that until you take that inventory, as the Toltecs call it, or examine your subconscious, as, a more like scientific person might say, it's like you have to undertake that exercise to even understand how you're operating, like we keep talking about ourselves being an operating system based, and that operating system is pretty much based on our agreements. And a lot of our agreements we don't even see because of the same reasons that we've been talking about previously. We're distracted by culture and whatever else.
We've entered into them with consent, willingly, without even knowing, without even realizing.
I mean, even our name.
Even our name.
We didn't agree to our name. Like we're all domesticated. We're, by our community. Everybody has a story, and that story.
I really love that term. We know what domesticated animal is. It's an animal that can no longer live in the wild without extreme help or guidance from another hand.
That's what we are, and we auto domesticate ourselves.
Yeah.
And
auto domesticate. Yep. Wow. I love that term. I've actually never heard that term before. I've never heard that term until you brought it up. So thank you. Thank you for introducing me to it.
And it's like the story that we're living. I think you can't avoid it when you're born, right? There's a story that's in place for you at least up into a certain point where you either have the choice. First, I think the first choice is the choice to even become aware or not. You can just make the choice to like, no, I'm going to continue in this loop. I like this loop. Let's just roll with this loop, But you can make the choice to even be aware that, okay, I'm letting the story operate itself. If I'm happy with that, and I think that there might be a slight percentage of people that are actually happy with that, and they can go with that, and that's fine. But if you're not happy with that, and I think a lot of people aren't really happy with it, but they're just not willing to have the courage, or I don't know. I can't speak for anybody else, but the decision to, once you've become aware, to actually take that decision and apply it all the way back to like, even like what I was just saying, your name. You didn't agree to your name. Wow. You don't agree to 90% of the concepts about yourself. You're skinny, you're tall, you're short. That's other people's perception of you. You are whatever the fuck you want to agree to, really. Those are just symbols and ideas, and it's all in your brain or, in your body somewhere.
Every categorization.
I think our whole body is our brain. I think that's another kind of deception. I think
like
our whole body
our intuition
is smart.
Is gut, like our gut intuition. There's definitely a brain.
Yeah, they talk about that. And I mean, I've had a massive feet injury, and like I've looked into reflexology. I think the feet are smart. And then the more I've looked into all of that type of stuff, I'm just like, no, every cell in your body has its own nucleus, its own brain. Like, that alone should tell you the whole thing is alive. It's smart. Your brain doesn't dictate the nerves in your knee. Your knee dictates the nerves in your knee. Your knee is smart, Yeah.
Our brain's kind of like a train conductor, maybe, in a way, kind
of like analysis,
or like a switchboard operator in some way, or something. It kind of sends things. It's like the data center, I guess. I don't know, but yeah, you're right. And like our central nervous system, how it's like, it looks like bolts of lightning just going through our body, and we really are
the
like
three words
beings.
I think of. Yeah, but totally. Well, let me get right back to that. But the three words that I think of when I think of the brain and its job is analysis, dreaming, and interpreting.
Ooh, I like that. Dreaming's one of the three, 33%.
Well, I also think that dreaming is largely misunderstood by most people. I think most of what dreaming is interpretation and analysis.
Oh, interesting. Where does daydreaming fall in? What are your thoughts on daydreaming? Like
we're trying to interpret and analyze our experience by stepping outside of the moment that we're currently in, and processing not only the moment that we're in, but all of our memories connected to that moment, and trying to make sense of it all. I mean, that's what all dreaming is, just trying to make sense of our experience.
Fascinating. I've been thinking about daydreaming a lot lately. Some people don't do it. Some people do. Some people can get lost in it. I used to get lost in it as a child.
No. That's no. I would argue that everyone does it. Okay. People that say they don't do it, they're
just doing it a different way, maybe. Like they're doing,
They don't think of it as daydreaming. They think of it as thinking.
Oh yeah. Oh, interesting. Yeah. 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 Just being lost in thought. We all know that. We all know what that means. Yeah. To just kind of like all of. Yeah. There's not a person in the world who's never been bored in class and zoned out sometime.
1,000%.
We
Or
yeah.
at work or whatever. Yeah.
Wherever
Anywhere that we've
driving.
not chosen, and that is the result of living somebody else's life.
Yeah.
If you're ever
Escaping.
daydreaming, that's because the reason for daydreaming even to begin with is because the moment that we're in, we don't want to be in that moment. We want to be somewhere else.
Right. So much so that we've like built it in our minds and rendered it again, back to the
Exactly.
rendering.
Yeah.
That takes energy, and that, ooh, and who knows what our ultimate.
And
before we get on
I
ultimates-
have to emphasize though, like, because I always like am very hyper aware of sounding egotistical or sounding like I know something other people don't. Like we all know this.
intuitively, like we're born,
Yeah,
kind of
we
born
all
with
know.
it.
We all know exactly what we want out of life, but we're finding excuses to not do it. And I'm so guilty of it. The reason that I feel like I can articulate stuff the way I can is because I'm the most guilty of not doing the shit.
So you've had some time to reflect.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Interesting. I love that you lead with the agreements element of it. It goes back to just self accountability, because ultimately this like lessons of these discussions I've been having lately, and lessons that I've kind of coming to more strongly lately. It all just comes back to.
Well, it's the
Just
yin yang,
us.
right? You
Just
cannot, accountability. A lot of people hear that word and it sounds hard, or responsibility. That's taking it sounds hard, right? But think about what that means. If you're
It's so
accountable,
granular.
then you're
Like
free.
we said, like we could put our eyes this way or our eyes this way. We could turn this way or this way. Literally everything we do has some sort of binary option component to it. Like something we could do.
Yeah, I mean, if
or
you're not
could do this.
accountable, then how can you be free if you're not accountable?
Right. At first,
How can
you said if you're not a cannibal, and I was like, well, hopefully
or
nobody's
no,
a cannibal
accountable or
I know.
responsible is the word. I actually prefer the word responsible, but like responsible, everybody they shy from their responsibilities or from.
Right.
Now, I shouldn't say their responsibilities because that's actually a different nuance there, but they shy away from taking responsibility, and it's like
Or
if
think
they
everything
actually
is someone
framed
else's
that in their
fault. Right.
mind as
Right.
gaining freedom, like the more freedom you have, the more you have to take responsibility, because in order to be free, you have to be an agent that makes decisions. And if you are yielding, was the word I'm looking for. If you're yielding that decision-making ability to somebody else and saying, well, I'm just taking orders, or I'm just doing what grandma wanted me to do. I'm just doing what mom wanted me to do. I'm being I'm being a good family person.
Right.
Everybody wants to be a good family person, but what about when your family's fucking the world? At what point do you have to say, I want to do the right thing. I don't want to be a bad family member, but I also want to be a good human.
I think
want to be
you're
a good person.
And I think all the big, like evil does happen in the world, but I don't think it's on this big boogeyman level. I've covered that before. I do think so much, most if not all of the hurt that transpires in this world is on the inside level. Is like people very close.
I'm gonna tie a bunch of concepts together, because you're 100% right. You're 1,000% right. But a bunch of different things that we've talked about in this episode, I'm gonna try to bring together right now. It's like, of course, I'm gonna lose my train of thought right when I was about to bring it all together. But
I have one more thought on the family thing. I have one more thought on like.
Go ahead.
I just think that what does that lead to? I think because hurt people, and they don't make good they don't know unless they. And I think all of us are like solvents. All of us are like alchemists in our own way. Like we have the ability to transmute bad into good if we just use the right chemicals.
You got me back on my train of thought.
Okay, awesome. I'm gonna let you take it. Yeah, I've talked about this.
You
stuff
said
before.
evil. You said evil, and I think this is my worldview, right? I think that evil, what we call evil, is actually the result of believing lies. And what lies are is just like a computer virus, because love is the only truth. Love is what is true. Experience, existence, like I said earlier, existence could not exist unless love was the foundation of it. So evil, what we call evil, is the result of believing lies. That's what I wanted to say.
I love that. Just like they do in improv, I'm going to do yes and, because I want to build on that. I think you're exactly right. Evil is deception, ultimately. Like, evil is lies. Evil is the belief, is the perpetuation, and then the belief in, and that's what that's what powers, our belief in it is what continues and powers the spell. Okay, so are you familiar with the sigil of Lucifer? Of like that little, on all like your death metal music,
sure
there's like this sign, and it's called the sigil of Lucifer. And Lucifer being the devil, it's kind of like, if you look up like the symbol of the devil, like you'll see this. It's a very familiar sign. Well, that symbol is a diagram of light and shadow. So like the representation of the devil, Lucifer, which is evil, the embodiment of evil, is ultimately just a diagram of shadows, of how the physical properties of light and how shadows work. It's like the same drawing. It's just it's just like a diagram of the same thing. It's like a 1-to-1. It's like the exact same thing. They just took how the physical properties of light and shadow and made that into a little symbol, and that's a symbol for Lucifer. I found that fascinating because it's like, yeah, ultimately Lucifer is quote unquote evil. And what is it representing? But shadows, and shadows is what? Deception, lies, deception, shadow play.
Symbolism.
Just like going back to Plato's cave, the shadow play, the fire, the shadows on the wall. There's something there. There's something with truth being good, God, truth, good, and evil, evil lies, evil false light, lie. There's something there. I think that. Yeah, I don't know. Why are we taught all this stuff? Why are we taught that heaven is out there and hell is down there, and we're not really taught that it's all kind of in here, and the gate, like the journey is
I think that as much as I've already, I'm a paradox, but I said I don't like talking about it, but I think that actually does. It actually makes sense to bring up Loosh in that instance, because I think that's exactly why, is that they want, and the reason I refrain from using the word loosh too much is because even the word itself, I think I've told you before, it's like lose and be quiet, which is why I respect you, because you talk about it a lot. But I prefer the word power because it sounds more positive, and it's like, yes, they do want us to lose our power and be quiet about it.
Yeah.
Because if we're talking about at a certain point, at a certain level of deception, and I think, the world we live in, when you were talking about here earlier, this is hell. This is the dream of hell. This is the dream of massive deception, ultimate deception. We don't even know what we are, who we are, where we are, because we're so deceived. Yes, we are. Quote about how when you say here, we are in hell, right? Kind of, but we can create our personal heaven and then resonate that and do our best to do that with the little bit of time we have.
In Westworld, Peter Abernathy, Dolores' dad, he says, hell is empty and all the devils are here. It's like,
yep. I love that show.
Do you believe in repenting? What if the kingdom of heaven's within you? Do you think you would enter, huh? What do you know, huh? How do you know truth from the pit of your soul, or just cause somebody told you? Do you think about what you think about? Do you see yourself in the people that you hang around? Keep quiet, let me think aloud. Listen up, wanna break it down and question your perceptions. I'ma break it down and question your perceptions. Do you ever question your perceptions? Do you ever question it? Oh yeah. What if your money was worthless? Then would you know what your worth is and reconsider living with a purpose? How would you determine what work is? Are you seeking what's easy to purchase, or is it deeper than what's on the surface? Do you question your perceptions ever? So is real, huh? It ain't your politicians, nor your status. All of that is fiction, so it's real, huh? It ain't your entertainment. Know the industry, I heard it's filled with fake shit. And I need truth over everything. Yeah. I need truth above all else. Just I need truth over everything. Yeah, give me the truth, give me the truth, give me the truth, yeah.